looks like everyone is getting the last of their drinks right now. And so it seems like a perfect time for us to start. Thank you all, everyone, for joining us for our first ever Geroscience education reception. I am excited to present our three speakers today, Dr. William K. Smith, Dr. Luigi Ferrucci, and Dr. Paul Pasquina. Our three guests today, our three speakers today, will be giving us the latest in breakthroughs in the biology of aging field and touch on how research and development in this space will affect society at large. To start the event, I would like to introduce our first speaker of the night, Dr. William K. Smith, founder and CEO of Longevity Labs. Dr. Smith has 25 years of experience as a principal investigator and project manager for research and development projects, both internationally and domestically. He is a board-certified physician for physical medicine and rehabilitation and is a recognized leader in the translational geroscience field. So, Dr. Smith, thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to hear your overview of the geroscience field.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you very much, Dylan, and thank you to the Alliance for Longevity Initiatives, which has been has provided such great leadership on this, and I'm very pleased to be a supporter. It's great to look out and see all the familiar and friendly faces, and I just want to say I am really honored and privileged to be here today with Luigi Ferrucci and Paul Pasquina, who are both great friends, and we've worked together for a number of years on State of the Science symposia, and I've always been struck by their integrity and their brilliance, and I'm very honored and humbled to be here. I also see a lot of great faces. I see Mike Stebbins is here. He is hiding in the back as usual. The father of ARPA-H and great leader in the Obama administration for biotechnology. Jim Moran, who was for many years a great champion in Congress. So many of the issues that he was deeply involved in comes to the forefront today. Harvey Sloan, who was a mayor of Louisville and a physician, second public health clinic in the country, and most importantly, married Muhammad Ali in his living room. And Lester Martinez-Lopez, every time I try to introduce General Martinez-Lopez, I am reminded of the New Yorker cartoon, which shows a guy on a statue of a guy on a horse with a hat like this, and a horse is rearing, and underneath it, it says, and this is all true, Lester, it says, soldier, statesman, scientist, humanitarian, and always a disappointment to his mother. But Lester has the most extraordinary career and the most extraordinary contributions to our country, and we're so lucky to have him here to say that. So, as mentioned by Dylan, my name's Will Smith. I'm, like Paul Pasquina, I'm a physiatrist. For those of you who don't know, it's a specialist in physical medicine rehabilitation. I think it's distinguished by being the only specialty that doesn't have an organ system. Yeah. Physical medicine rehabilitation grew up after World War II specifically to take a multidisciplinary management approach to function and to try to address impairment and disability and maximize the ability for independence. And that focus on function is really how I came to be involved in the geroscience field, because the leading cause of impairment and disability in the United States is aging. So the question really, geroscience, and that may be a new term for some, and what I'm going to do is provide a quick overview. The question that geroscience really deals with is what exactly is aging, and can it be therapeutically modified? So Luigi and I have a colleague who, when asked what is aging, he often tells a story and kind of goes like this. And then the wife says to her husband, "Let's go upstairs and make love." And he replies, "That sounds great, but I can't do both." And my mother always used to say when she passed away from Alzheimer's in 2019, but she always used to say, Whenever she gets together with aging friends, it always starts with the organ recital. My knees don't work. My hips bad. I can't hear. My bladder goes on and on. So all of us intuitively know the impact of aging. Aging is a loss of function at the global level and at the organ level. But the question of exactly what that process is and whether it can be therapeutically modified is something that is just coming into light. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. There are some research answers, and I'm sure these guys will talk about it, that are sort of coming into view. And research going back into the 1920s on diet and calorie restriction shows that if you eat less, if you restrict calories, you live longer and you slow aging. More recently, the NIA, National Institute on Aging, and major universities have revealed highly conserved and promising metabolic and genetic pathways relating to aging. Different teams at various institutions are exploring promising approaches in the area of energy metabolism, mitochondrial function, DNA repair, and epigenetics, just to name a few. And the stakes could not be higher. We as a nation are going to feel the impact of aging on a societal scale within a generation. So let me share a few brief statistics. The percentage of the population over 65 is projected to increase 47% from 58 million to 82 million in less than 30 years. Today, excluding accidents and COVID-19, and this has been true for some time, the 5 leading causes of death, heart disease, cancer, stroke, pulmonary disease, and Alzheimer's, are all age-related. And to focus on an issue of personal relevance, people with Alzheimer's diagnosis are expected to more than double from 6 million to 13 million by 2035. By 2030, total costs associated with their care is projected to rise from 620 to 624 billion, increasing to 1.5 trillion by 2050. The purpose of medical research is, as Ashley Montague puts it, quote, to die young as late in life as possible. To die young as late in life as possible. I don't believe the goal is to live forever. Minimizing sickness and maximizing function is what most people want, I believe. And that's what my medical specialty focuses on. And it's a big deal. Researchers focused on the cause of dementia have estimated that delaying the onset of Alzheimer's by 1 year would save 113 billion by 2030, 219 billion by 2050. Now expand that across all of the age-related conditions and think about the savings, not only monetary, but in terms of human suffering. That briefly is the promise of the approach, and we've got a ways to go, but in an approach that touches on all aspects of society and each generation. And I can't wait to hear more about it from the next speakers. And again, I'm honored to be here with you and with them tonight, like I keep in touch. Yeah.
Oh, please. You deserve being productive. All right. Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Smith. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Luigi Ferrucci, right here. Dr. Ferrucci is a geriatrician and epidemiologist who studies the causal pathways for cognitive and physical decline in older persons. Dr. Ferrucci has been the scientific director at NIA since May 2011 and is one of the most cited researchers in the aging field. So, Dr. Ferrucci, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm excited to hear your speak.
Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about a topic that is very, very close to my heart for 2 reasons. One is when I was 15 years old, I was serving dinner at the Red Cross because I wanted to do something useful. And there was a man, this was Florence, Italy, in a corner, and I was serving his spaghetti. And he looked at me and said, "What the hell are you doing here? It's Saturday evening, you should be out chasing girls." And I said, "Well, I want to do something important in my life." And he said, "If you want to do something important, you need to study aging. The people that will make this population aging are already born, and unless there is a catastrophic event, they will rise to be old, and the aging of the population will change everything. the economy, the healthcare, the structure of the family, the relationship with the nation. Aging will be the leading problem that we'll have to address. And you know what? Nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's doing anything about it. And people are kind of singing a song that was not going to help us. So I was so struck by the fact that, Professor Francesco Antonini, that would have been my mentor later on over the years, told me that I decided to be a doctor, to be a geriatrician, to study aging, and ultimately to come to the United States NIA to see whether I could do a little bit more for my patients that were in the hospital. And the experience of every geriatrician is that we do an enormous amount of effort to make people walk, to see them coming back 2 weeks later. They have lost everything that we have gained in doing that hospitalization. So I wanted to have more weapons. I wanted to know more. I need to know more and to do more intervention that would be more effective. We live in an aging world. And when I say that, I don't want to give you a number, but I want to tell you that this is something that we should celebrate, because the fact that we live longer is a conquered something that we have improved the living condition. And so we have to think that this is an accomplishment. But on the other hand, come with something that it's not so pleasant. Aging of the population have occurred so far mostly in the year of life that characterized by disease and disability. Only slightly extension of the health expectancy, the life characterized by the ability to enjoy everything you have to enjoy in daily life. Not only we have seen that there is an increase in life expectancy, but mostly in the yearly life expectancy, but there is a healthcare cost increase. The length of disability increase as well. The more we spend, the more we expand the number and the length of disability in the population. And this seems to be counterintuitive, but actually it makes sense. And that is because always what we do is to wait until disease become clinically evident, intervene on those diseases with the fantastic scientific medical advancement. But the only thing we can do with that approach is prolong the life of people that are already suffering. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. It's important that we do that. If we follow that trend, there's no economy that can afford the amount of healthcare cost that will come from the aging of the population. Our only hope, and I always say that enthusiastically, because I think we can do that, is to increase the health expectancy, to increase the part of life that is free from disease and disability. And so in order to do that, we cannot only concentrate on the people that already have developed disease, but we need to concentrate on the first period of life. And we already know that there are people that are aging faster than others. We already see on the street, we see people in their 60s that already have big multimorbidity, while there are people in their 70s that are running a marathon. And so that means that there is variability that we need to capture to detect those individuals that require early intervention in order to avoid the deterioration that unavoidably will come late in life. And that is where Geroscience comes. Geroscience states that the root cause of disease and disability is in the same mechanism of the biology of aging. My predecessor, Nathan Schock, created the study that I'm now the PI, is the Baltimore Longitudinal Study of Aging, under the concept that you needed to distinguish aging from disease. It was so that you could understand better the disease. Today, with our advancement in technology, we do know that that was absolutely the wrong question, because as we are better and better in understanding the pathophysiology of disease, we do not see any solution of continuum between aging and chronic disease. They are exactly the same process. There is only an issue of severity. So the real problem is, can we slow down aging so that we can delay the disease and disability that come late in life? Die with the boots on. You know, there's a Texan guy that I met once, and they told me this expression, and I thought that was such a great expression. Well, I'll tell you that there's a lot of science that suggests that we can. The science is still mostly in a preclinical model, but we know that there are interventions, nutritional, genetic, pharmacological, that can delay the events that characterize aging in animal models. And we also have some initial evidence that come from individuals that have very specific chronic disease. We know, for example, that we can intervene cellular senescence, and by doing this, we can have a strong effect on idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis that was not treatable before now. Now, in order to reach this dream of expanding health expectancy, we need to do two things. One is we need to be able to measure aging. And that is the most important challenge, because I will never demonstrate that an intervention slows down aging if I cannot measure aging. And the search for biomarker of aging is probably the tip of a spear of the geroscience hypothesis in this moment, and where everybody is starting to work because it's so important. The second thing is to say, can we then find intervention that are, able to slow down aging? And I know I'm already late, but give me 2 minutes because I need to say it. So whether we're able to do this or not depends on what we think aging is. And the concept that most of the field is now embraced is that aging is a ratio between the damage accumulation due to physical entropy at the macromolecular level and the number of biological compensatory mechanisms that are evolutionarily selected to prevent or repair this damage. Protein, for example, become misfolded, and there are a very large number of mechanisms that try to refold them, so that the misfolding have no consequences. Those resilient mechanisms are already in us, and what we need to do is to find a way to enhance them. Instead of using the extrinsic prevention of curing cholesterol, we need to potentiate the intrinsic prevention, improve mitophagy, improve proteostasis, improve DNA repair, because those are the mechanisms that in every cell will give a much longer health and will prevent a cadre of disease without focusing on a single disease. I want to finish by saying that this is not done. This is potential. We already see that this is going to happen. There are so many signs that this is not fantasy. But I also want to tell you that we should be incredibly cautious about communicating to the public. So we should say that this is something that we're studying. I will not promise that will work. We will go through many failures before we find something that really works. So it's important that we are persistent and we have the patience to do this well, so we create health and not damage in our population. Thank you for your...
All right, that was wonderful, Dr. Ferrucci. Thank you so much. I would like to now introduce our final speaker of the night, Dr. Paul Pasquina, Chair of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at Uniformed Services University. Prior to his leadership role at USU, Dr. Pasquina was a colonel in the U.S. Army and chief of the Department of Orthopedics and Rehabilitation at Walter Reed Medical Center. Dr. Pasquina, thank you so much for joining. Very excited to hear.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me. I thought this would be a little less stressful, and then I showed up and I see the Honorable General Dr. Martinez Lopez, who just happens to be my boss's 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 boss, I think. There's some level of that, but it's actually not that is as stressful as the fact that if you really look at his career and admire him as much as I do, he should be the one speaking, not me. But, sir, thank you for your leadership. Very much. And so I guess I already disclosed that I work for the Department of Defense. I am a West Point graduate, a Uniformed Services University graduate, served 20-plus years at Walter Reed. Thought for sure I was going to be a sports medicine doctor, and 9/11 hit, and have been taking care of wounded warriors and their families my entire career. It's humbling to do what I do, but as a DoD employee, let me start by disclosing that these are the remarks of Paul Pasquina, and I have they are not the official policy of the Department of Defense. So I will start off as that my first disclosure. My second disclosure is this man to my right is a very close friend. William and I are both physical medicine rehabilitation specialists, because I think you mentioned earlier, it's a very unique specialty. But we started seeing casualties come in with loss of limb, many of them with loss of multiple limbs. William was involved in some initiatives out of Chicago, landmine initiatives, and had a lot of experience in the care of folks with amputation. And I reached out to him. From that time forward, over the last 20-plus years, we've become very close friends. So close that I really attribute when I returned back from Iraq, I was really suffering, which is embarrassing to say because I returned with all four of my limbs. I returned with both of my eyes. I returned without a significant head injury, but I still struggle. And William was a friend that I could call, who not only had strong advice, but kindness. And I think that's what we all look for in life. And so as a transition to aging, I hope that while we all age, we are all as fortunate to find friends that reach out to us with kindness. And I think that probably will help us restore at least meaning in life, if not longevity.
I thought I died. I'm not going to be really happy where I'm still here, but I'm also so
But that thanks, ways. No, we are friends. So we're not going to get tearful. We're not going to give each other hugs, maybe afterwards. But I would like to say that in my role as running the Department of Rehabilitation, I've had, like I said, the humbling experience to take care of many, many casualties. Since 9/11, we've deployed over 2.53 million servicemen and women overseas that we're asking a lot of. And over 55,000 have returned with severe injuries. And when I say severe injuries, loss of one limb, loss of multiple limbs, combined with spinal cord injury, chronic pain, vision, hearing impairment, you name it, they have sustained it. When you start talking about traumatic brain injury and PTSD, we're talking about hundreds of thousands. And the one thing I will say is that what makes the Department of Defense very unique is that our casualties are typically under the age of 30. And that has enormous implications for not only their lives, but for the United States, right? What is our commitment to our sons and daughters that have either sacrificed their lives or sacrificed their limbs? And what is our commitment to take care of them, but not just the short term, for the long term? And I will tell you, there is plenty of data out there. I'm not here to cite papers, but if you are living with limb loss, in the traumatic amputation, or you're limiting after spinal cord injury, your risk of cardiovascular disease is either 2 to 4 times higher with the same, with like at 25 years. Your risk of arthritis is 5 times greater in the same limb or contralateral limb. Your risk of diabetes is twice as high. So across your risk of, let's talk about traumatic brain injury, your risk of cognitive decline. We don't really know, but there's plenty of data that suggests that these are problems. So I guess what I want to say is that if you're going to study aging, what better population to study than those we already have data that suggest they're going to age faster? And how do we understand that? As Dr. Ferrucci was just saying, we are right now at an amazing time in history where we can do whole genome sequencing. We can look at epigenetics. We can look at DNA methylation. We can look at all these things that actually influence the health of our bodies, the health of our organ systems, the health of our cells, and on a molecular level, what's going on. So there are ways, as have been alluded to earlier, that we could really understand what is the process of aging, not just of a single joint, but of all the joints, not just of, the cardiovascular system, but the cardiovascular system, the pulmonary system, urinary tract system. We can look at all these systems holistically, and we can bring a bunch of scientists together. So I'm really excited about where we are in history. I can tell you there's no more needing and more deserving population than our wounded warriors, who right now, are out there and asking for help. And I'm really happy that this group, Dylan, for your leadership, and for this group to actually take this seriously, because I don't think it is science fiction. The science is there, and we have the tools and technologies now to understand this much better and create interventions that can really help, whether it be our wounded warriors or all of society. So anyway, thank you for inviting me. I look forward to further discussion.